Let's dive right in and tackle a question that's at the absolute heart of our modern lives. What really, truly motivates us? We're going to break down the science of what gets us going, take a hard look at how technology is shaking things up, and then explore some really cool new ways people are trying to build a more human-friendly world of work. So let me just ask you this, straight up. Think about your job. Are you genuinely fired up, or do you sometimes feel like you're just, going through the motions? It's a huge question, and the answer to it has everything to do with some very basic psychological needs we all share. Okay, so to understand what drives us, we have to start with the fundamental building blocks. You can think of them as the essential nutrients, not for our bodies, but for our minds. And this all comes from something called self-determination theory, or SDT for short. Now, this was developed by two psychologists, Richard Ryan and Edward Dacey, and honestly, it's one of the most important ideas in psychology today. It says that all of us, everywhere, have three innate needs. When we get these needs met, we thrive. When we don't, well, we really struggle. First up is autonomy. This is that deep down feeling that we're the ones driving the ship of our own lives. It's about having a choice, about feeling like your actions are your own, and not that you're just a puppet on a string. Second, we have competence. This one's pretty intuitive, right? It's our inner drive to be good at what we do. We love tackling challenges, learning a new skill, feeling effective. It's that yes feeling you get when you finally solve a tough problem. And number three is relatedness. This is our need to connect, to feel like we belong to a tribe, to care about other people and feel like they care about us. We're social creatures through and through. This isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. So how do these three needs actually affect our motivation? Well, you can think of it like a spectrum, which you see here. On the far left, you've got amotivation. That's basically zero drive. Then, as you move to the right, you get motivation that's all about external stuff, like rewards or avoiding punishment. But as our needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness start getting met, we slide all the way to the far right, intrinsic motivation. And that's the holy grail. That's when we do things just for the sheer joy of it. The key takeaway is that if you want to unlock that powerful internal drive in people, you have to create an environment where these three needs can be met. But, and this is a big but, there's a new player in the game. A powerful force has entered our workplaces, and it has the potential to throw a real wrench into those core psychological needs. So I'd like you to meet your new boss, the algorithm. This is what we call algorithmic management. It's when software, not a person, is in charge of millions of workers. It's setting their schedules, tracking every move they make, and even deciding who gets a raise or who gets fired. And this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. It's the day-to-day reality for gig workers, warehouse staff, and more, even office workers. Which leads to this perfect, punchy question. Is this whole thing just Taylorism on steroids? If you don't know, Taylorism was that old idea from a century ago about breaking down work into the tiniest, most efficient, and most mind-numbing tasks possible. So is this new wave of tech just a supercharged digital version of that old control fantasy? Well, the tech itself is really a double-edged sword. You could use it in an enabling way, giving people information and tools to do their jobs better and smarter. Or you could use it in a controlling way to monitor everyone constantly and turn jobs into simple, repeatable tasks. The problem, as the research is showing, is that most companies are overwhelmingly choosing the path of control. And this, yeah, I know, this looks incredibly complex. Don't worry about reading the labels here, that is not the point. The point is to just get a feel for the sheer intensity of what's being called datafication. Every single click, every task, every second of pause is captured, turned into data, and fed into these massive, complex models. This creates a workplace of constant surveillance that just chews away at our needs for autonomy and competence. So that all sounds pretty challenging, right? But that is not the end of the story. Because in reaction to all these pressures, there's a really powerful counter-movement bubbling up, one that's focused on building a completely different way to work. For a long, long time, the dominant mindset was pretty much captured by this famous phrase, "There is no alternative." The idea was that the way big corporations were run, focused only on maximizing profit for shareholders, was the only way. It was just presented as a fact of life, like gravity. But it turns out there are alternatives. Lots of them. And they're not just theories in a book. They are here, right now. Things like worker-owned co-ops, community care networks, solidarity economies. These are real organizations out in the world proving that another way is totally possible. So what do all these different groups have in common? It's a concept called alternative organizing, and the core idea is simple. Instead of putting profit at the top of the pyramid, these organizations are built around things like societal goals, collective ownership, and making decisions democratically. They are literally designed to serve people and communities first. And this leads to a really profound and, I think, beautiful idea. The goal isn't to find one single perfect new system to replace the old one. Instead, it's about building what the Zapatista movement in Mexico calls a pluriverse. It's this radical idea that we can create a world where many different kinds of worlds can all exist at the same time. A world where many worlds fit. Let that sink in for a second. It's not about finding the one right answer, but about creating a rich, diverse garden of different ways of working, living, and being together. So, let's bring it all home. We've talked about our fundamental needs as people, the technology that's challenging those needs, and the alternative movements that are trying to honor them. What's the final takeaway? All right, just take a look at this. At a quick glance, it's actually kind of hard to tell the difference between the puppies and the fried chicken, right? And in a weird way, our jobs can be just like that. We get offered things that look good, a fancy title, office perks, a big paycheck, but they might not actually be feeding those core psychological needs we talked about. And this is the most crucial point to remember. The technology, the algorithms, the AI, all of it is not in charge. We are. The future of work isn't set in stone. It's going to be the result of the millions of tiny choices we all make every day about what we value and what kind of world we actually want to live in. And so that brings us right back to you. I want to leave you with this one last question to think about. Look at your own job, your own company. Is it truly designed to help you meet those needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness? Is it designed to fulfill you as a human being, or is it just designed to function? The answer to that question tells us a whole lot about the future that we're all choosing right now.